How's it going, bros? My name is... And today we're going to be talking about the... Okay, so why am I talking about the double jump when I could be sat here talking about all movement, or even just vertical movement and narrow it down more? Well, to be honest, my intent was to make a video about conventional movement mechanics, like sprinting, rolling, dodging, dashing, floating, rocket jumping, you know, movement. But in my research, I found there's a sentiment in my immediate friend group and internet strangers alike that the double jump is an overused, boring, and lazy game mechanic that developers just throw into games to add some cheap depth to the vertical movement of whatever game they're making.
The double jump is a bland and almost lazy feature. When merely incorporated as a thing you can do, it presents the player with nothing more than, well, just another thing to do.
And before you tell me that I'm extremely petty for making an entire video to disprove a couple of friends and some random internet people, first know that you're absolutely right, I am in fact a petty asshole. Hey. But the points brought up against the double jump I also see brought up in other discussions about other things relating to or about video games, so I saw this as a good way to address some of them. So let's start with the argument that the double jump is lazy because it's easy to implement and is overused, and therefore takes little to no effort or talent in game design or game creation. Now, right away, you know this argument has been made time and time again against pretty much every conventional game mechanic ever, and it really pisses me off. Because it stems from this idea that every game mechanic has to be fully original and must take a minimum of 20 moons to implement. And I'm not an idiot, by the way. Look, I make a little scout guy, put him in a game engine, give him some movement and a jump, and just like this, I can give him a double jump. But there's a massive difference between implementing something and then balancing and tailoring it to your game. I hate this specific argument because it feels so cherry-picked. Like, people bring it up against anything they don't like. It's lazy. This game mechanic is lazy. You know what also isn't very hard to implement? Walking, or shooting, or health, or fucking everything. I added basic movement prior to the double jump. I don't see anyone complaining about that. It's never been about difficulty of implementation, it's about the manner in which it's been added and balanced around the rest of the game. You know, game design. And those game mechanics aren't very original either, yet still everyone knows there's a massive fucking difference in the feeling of walking in this game compared to that game, or that game compared to this game.
Oh, but it all uses WASD. It's not very original, never mind the unique design from the developers or anything.
And with that, I want to add, I'm not denying that the double jump, just like literally every game mechanic, can be implemented poorly, or that it can feel as though it's just been added to be added. It can be lazy and it can feel like a checklist because it is a very common game mechanic. Oversaturation of a game mechanic can make it more likely to have examples of poor execution. But this idea that conventional game mechanics can be lazy in their own right is an extremely negative mindset to have about video games and game development, and the notion that because something is frequently seen in gaming it shouldn't be added to your game can be very damaging to your game's design. Obviously, it shouldn't be added just because other games added, but there are some very good reasons to add the double jump. So now let's talk about something else I heard quite a bit. The double jump is useless or just added filler because you could make jumps smaller, or make the normal jump higher, or that it's just an unnecessary extra button press that doesn't add any gameplay. So this annoys me a lot because it ignores implementation and it doesn't acknowledge that yes, the double jump changes movement and how you think about movement. To demonstrate this, look at these maps and obstacles from different games and that I've just created. Think about how you'd traverse them given only a single jump. Now think about how you'd traverse them with a double jump, and immediately you think of more paths and more ways to go about every path. It isn't the same as making the normal jump having the same height as two double jumps. If there's just a straight path with a few gaps in between, then yeah, this argument is applicable, but that isn't an inherent flaw with the double jump. And even in this example, you're given more options. A single jump has all of these directions, but if you add another jump, suddenly your direction options square themselves and you're given more control. Control that requires timing and precision that takes experience, specifically in 3 dimensions as opposed to only 2. And I suppose now would be the proper place to talk about multiplayer implications. The double jump can be used as a balancing tool and it completely changes the interactions you have with other players.
This shit is gay!
You have to be really considerate with the double jump in multiplayer games, as it can be very powerful because of the omnidirectional control I mentioned earlier. Dodging projectiles, hit scan, flying over people's heads, ambushing, escaping, or even getting yourself right into the middle of where you shouldn't be.
Okay, this does not look good here.
It's now both a movement option for traversing the map and a gameplay mechanic for multiplayer interactions. And this is a pretty subjective thing, but the double jump is a generally very fun game mechanic, especially when compared to other conventional vertical movement mechanics. The double jump is an extremely snappy movement. Tactile is fun, alright? Clicky buttons, whatever.
Nice.
Snappy movements are enjoyable, and being able to turn on a dime is a perfect example of snappy. Snap, snap, snap. Levitation or just higher jumps loses that tactile sensation. And also, the double jump is very intuitive despite how unrealistic it is to jump midair. Speaking of how unrealistic it is, I saw a lot of people say that the manner in which the double jump breaks the laws of physics is distracting enough to avoid using it. Now, what's interesting about this is that I would have agreed with it if this was me from around 4 years ago. But in the time since, I've had many discussions that have changed my viewpoint. What I want to say is that limiting yourself to the real world exclusively can damage a game's fun factor. And there are plenty of ways to explain the game mechanic through the lore of a game, like high-tech gear or magic. Those are perfectly valid explanations. And then in games where there's no consistency to the physics anyway, where people can shoot the floor to propel themselves and shooting people with a shotgun makes them go flying, someone hopping mid-air fits right in. In games set in the current age attempting to be fully realistic, then yeah, there's definitely a very solid argument for immersion. Obviously you can't just plop it in a game like that without careful consideration. But this isn't a silver bullet against any game mechanic or balancing decisions that don't conform to real-life physics. Multiplayer balance and fun, alright? It's a compromise. Games that are clearly going for hyper-realistic gameplay sacrifice realism for balance and for fun. It's just what video games are. They will never be fully realistic.
Like, come on, CSGO, you're telling me these are the best ball physics you have? Try a little harder next time.
It's a sliding scale of immersion. And the last big argument I saw against the double jump was it trivializes movement or renders the single jump useless. And again, implementation here. The double jump in single-player games, in my opinion, works better as a progressive power-up or an item that isn't something right off the bat. And even when it is, it's up to the surrounding environment and enemies, etc. to force the player to utilize the single jump, or challenge their ability to utilize the double jump. And in multiplayer games, due to player interaction, the optimal jump changes based off that. Alright, there you go. That was a petty rage baby video defending a game mechanic I enjoy. But even though this was mostly just a video because I was the odd one out in a friend group, I wanted to make some notes about the double jump. You know, things I thought of while making the video. The double jump is the most rudimentary vertical movement ability right after the single normal jump. And when you think of other vertical movement shit like air dashing or floating, maybe wall jumps and stuff like that, you can kind of really see how it all wraps back to the double jump. Especially in 2D and 3D platformers like Celeste and Cuphead, the gameplay of these games lives off of their vertical movement mechanics, which are based off variations of the double jump. The double jump is really seen so much because it's just super basic and it's super amazing and easy and, you know, stuff. It's good. You really get to see the double jump shine when it's accompanied by other vertical movement mechanics, or even replaced by them, so, you know,
air dashing video coming soon, trademark.
And also the double jump is a lot more powerful and impactful in 3 dimensions. Think about how many more options that there are for the double jump in 3-dimensional space. Let's take our little scout guy here and, there we go.
Don't look at me, I'm hideous!
Don't get me wrong, it's still incredible in side-scrollers. Anyone who's played Terraria ever knows how just fucking amazing it feels when you find that cloud in a bottle. Before you get it, you have to build these fucking horrible-looking bridges, and you have to rope yourself down great chasms and up cliffs, but when you get that cloud in a bottle, it's like,
Fuck yeah, let's go.
Anyway, time for some rapid-fire notes about the double jump. Note 1, fall damage is usually heavily nerfed by the double jump, as you can just gracefully tap your jump button before you're about to fucking die. It can be used as a balancing tool in this way, but can also be excluded if you want that, I guess? I don't know. Note 2.
I like the way the scout's legs look in TF2 when he double jumps. And to add to that, I like when there is a clear signifier, like a front flip or something for double jumps. I think that's a nice touch.
Note 3, the first game to use the double jump was Dragon Buster by Namco in 1984, which is pretty dang old, but the double jump here is really clunky. It really just kind of gave others the idea. Note 4, sometimes consecutive jumps that get higher each time are called double or triple jumps, and this can make video game discussion online difficult sometimes,
but you know, whatever, I deal with it.
Note 5, having more than 2 jumps is usually unnecessary. necessary. You don't really see it much, and when you do, it's usually more of a progressive thing, and it can be fun in high enough quantities. It can feel like you're flying the way Kirby does with his adorable little breath hops, but it's usually unnecessary. Note 6, according to Giant Bomb, there are over 500 games that feature the double jump, and by no means is it a comprehensive list. It's really just the games popular enough to have their own page. So before you comment, oh, I can't believe you didn't mention fucking Bum Bum's Twinkie Adventure on the PS3. Like, sorry, but yeah, it'd literally be impossible for me to mention every single different implementation of the double jump unless I want to make a 6-hour video. By all means, tell me about cool versions and spin-offs of the double jump as well as just cool vertical movement in general. I really do like to hear about that kind of stuff, so, you know, be the one to tell me. I want to hear it. Anyway, the video's over now, so, you know, thank you for watching. It really does mean a lot. I'm sorry the audio probably sounds different in this little end bit after I said the Rage Baby, you know, video thing. I recorded this a few months later. This video took 2 months, and if you couldn't tell from my horrible voice, I was sick for almost all of it. Not to mention, this video has actually been made on different computers in multiple different living situations, so the fact that it's even out at all is quite a miracle, and I'm really glad it came out. Okay, the video's finally actually over now. I really need to go. Okay, goodbye.